done? I know the simple answer is win more matches, but is there anything you can think of in terms of how you approached it that you would do differently, knowing what you know now?
That's a great question. I have thought about it, not for a while, but I have thought about it occasionally. And, you know, I kept doing what I did to get myself into that position, which was, you know, consulting with Terry, going to see Terry, chatting about things that were, you know, giving me bother in my game and things that I'd like to improve, and working really hard on my game. But it's such a fine line when you're, I don't mean to put myself down, but I had achieved, you know, above my status nearly. And it's very, very difficult to keep performing at, you know, your highest possible level all the time. You're going to get dips. And when I got my dip, because I was, you know, I was competing against really, you know, top players, top 64 and top 32 players in my first match or two. The standard was really high there, and you couldn't afford to have a dip in confidence or a little bit of loss of form, because back then there weren't that many tournaments, maybe 7, 8 tournaments, and there was quite a bit of wait time in between. It wasn't like it is now, where you can lose a match and you've got a tournament next week, get back on the horse and put things to right quickly. I got on a little bit of a run where I was losing first round, and the next qualifier was 4 weeks later. So I'd go home and practice, you know, 4 or 5 hours a day, and go back, lose first round again, and all of a sudden you're getting a bit down, and you know it's just a difficult situation. I honestly, you know, I honestly can't think I would do it. You know, borrow Ronnie O'Sullivan's cue action. Maybe that's probably about the only thing I could have done differently that would have helped me. Maybe put myself under a little bit of pressure because I had done well, but I guess that's only natural when you've had a little bit of taste of what it's like to be on the centre stage at the Crucible and get all the plaudits and the prize money and the ranking points. You know, it's hard not to want more of that and to put yourself under pressure to achieve more of that. And maybe that's where I went wrong.
And I mean, I'm not a player, you know, I'm a fan, not like you guys. Best break ever, 27. That was all the colours. I wheel that out occasionally. It's nothing to be proud of. But you know, when you're feeling that the confidence is suffering and maybe you're putting yourself under pressure, I'm just thinking how you feel like when you're playing. I mean, do you feel that in terms of, you know, almost tightness, or, you know, just not seeing things in the same way, taking longer over shots? You know, how were you aware of it, that you were under more pressure than perhaps you would have liked to have been?
Yeah, I got it pointed out to me by Terry about, it was probably about the 03 season, I would say, when he said, you know, you don't look like you want to win games, you look like you're trying not to lose games, which is a big difference. And that was a little bit of a light bulb moment. The first one I had with Terry was in 97 when I first went to see him, and he said to me, "What's your job as a professional snooker player?" And I was like, not too sure. And he says, "I'll tell you what it is to win matches." And that was a light bulb moment for me, because I had been focusing on how I was playing, and I was getting very, very frustrated when I wasn't playing well, which isn't the point at all. The point is to win with whatever game you've got on that day, and try and give yourself a chance to play better the next day. Win, and then worry about your form, your game, and everything after that. And that was brilliant for me, because once I stopped focusing on how I was playing, I got better at winning when I wasn't playing well, because I wasn't so bothered about the fact that I wasn't playing well. And that's, you know, it was a situation where, because I was getting more wins, I was getting more confidence, and then I was starting to play a bit better. So that helped me massively at that time. And then I had got a bit negative, and some of the things that you were talking about, Michael, you know, slowing down, hesitating, you know, turning down a lot of shots. And when Terry spotted that in me, it made me determined to become more assertive and more positive in my play. And then I had a little upturn again for about a season and a half, where I started to get some good results again, started qualifying for a few venues, like the Irish Masters, which was a great treat for me. Obviously, been from Northern Ireland. I had been down to watch Joe play in the Irish Masters a few times, and always wanted to play in it. Sadly, when I qualified for it, it had gone away from golf and it had moved to the City West, but it was still a fantastic experience. I beat Stephen Maguire to qualify for the Grand Prix, which was a fantastic win for me in 03. But as you said, Lee, only one appearance at the Crucible, and one that hurt me greatly was I was in a very strong position against Chris Small in 04, where sadly for him, he was starting to struggle with his health, and I think that was the year he actually had to pull out against Alan when he was struggling. He beat me to qualify, and then he was struggling with his health, and he pulled out maybe halfway through the match with Alan because he wasn't well.
Right, yeah.
Chris was struggling with his health and his game, and I was in a very strong position against him, 4-1 up, and the pressure got to me, and I kind of just reverted to getting negative, getting tentative, slowing down, and hesitant, and going back to because I wanted it so badly because I'd been there before. I kind of stopped myself from playing, and Chris finished up beating me 10-7.
You're sort of protecting your lead too much.
Yeah, protecting your lead and turning down shots that you shouldn't be turning down. You've got to, no matter what the circumstances or no matter what's on the line, you've got to play the right shot. And generally, snooker players know, even though it's risky and you're leaving a lot, it's the right shot. If you get it, and you're going to win the frame from it.
So how do you reflect on it then, Paddy? It's interesting the way Lee was saying there about almost kind of taking you back to some defeats and then the highs really of going into the Crucible experience. I mean, do you remember much about the experience of playing in the Crucible? So away from your results, the crowds, the atmosphere, the feeling around it, the table set up. Do you remember much about the feeling of being at the Crucible?
Yeah, I remember it all really well. It was the best experience I've ever had in my snooker career, without a shadow of a doubt. I've always said standing behind the curtain, waiting to go out, waiting to go down those steps, was the best feeling in the world and the worst feeling in the world all at the same time, because you were just so excited, absolutely buzzing, but at the same time really, really nervous, like the most nervous I've ever been. But I didn't. But one of the things that helped me was I didn't try to bluff myself. I didn't say, like, oh, it's not that big a deal. Come on, it's just a snooker game. I embraced it and said, you're going to be really nervous here. This is going to be really tough. The eyes of the world are on you. The camera's on you. The crowd's there. The commentators are slagging you off. Not necessarily, but potentially. And that's the way it is. So you just accept it. You get your head down and you get on with it. And that was the best thing I could have done, because if I tried to block all that out, I think I would have just, I would have had too many conflicting emotions. I'd have been feeling really nervous and trying to imagine that I'm not nervous. So I just, embraced all that and took it on the chin and sort of gritted my teeth a wee bit and got on with it. And I was fortunate that I was able to play through the nerves, because I would tell people, yeah, I was so nervous, and they would say, well, you didn't look nervous. Yeah, but that's on the outside. I'm the one who can tell what's going on the inside with the heart racing and the sweaty palms and stuff. It was absolutely brilliant being backstage and feeling a part of it, and getting asked for autographs. I can't understand why these top players run away from autographs. I was like running towards people trying to give them the autograph. But no, it was lovely to get the reward for all the effort that I put in over the years. And apart from anything else, more so than a snooker player, I'm a snooker fan. So I've been watching the Crucible. The first one was 81 when Steve won his first, and then obviously as a kid from Northern Ireland, 82 when Alex won was absolutely incredible. Some buzz for snooker in Northern Ireland at that time. Snooker was buzzing in Northern Ireland at that time anyway, as it was in England, and soon after that in Scotland with Stephen's exploits. So I watched every match from about 81 that the Crucible had to offer, and I knew all the scores and stats and everything. I'm a massive snooker fan, so it was a dream come true for a snooker fan to actually be there and stuck in the middle of the whole thing.
Well, we were in Portugal, Paddy, together at Europeans, and we had a chat and we were talking about snooker and stuff, and you really got a sense the way you were talking. You could remember everything. You're like a stato. You could remember matches, not your matches, but other people's matches years ago, and what the score in certain shots. So yeah, I get what you're saying. You're a snooker fan first.
You mean a geek?
I'm trying to avoid the word. Like trying to avoid saying you're old.
Yeah. Snooker, an old snooker nerd. Yeah, that sums me up pretty well. Yeah, I just love it. I just love it, and still love it to this day. You know, watch it whenever I can. Once we get finished, now gonna tune in the snooker that's on at the minute. So, yeah, just love the game, and it's my drug. There are worse drugs.
Yeah,
it's mine.
But don't go yet, Paddy. Could we talk about the World Seniors first and how well you're doing in that? I think you were #1 in the World Seniors rankings just before the new year. But I think because Peter Lyons won the UK there, he went to #1. But you're doing fantastic in the World Seniors.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, obviously it's been a really unexpected second chance to go and play snooker in some wonderful venues, and alongside a lot of my heroes, especially Jimmy White, who's my all-time snooker hero. I've played Jimmy 4 times in the seniors now, and I've lost 4 times. So I think that's just because I can't get him off that pedestal that I put him on all those years ago as a kid. I've absolutely loved the seniors. Just one disappointment was obviously losing the World Seniors final in 2018 on a respotted black. I would love to have got my name on one of those World Seniors trophies, but as Jimmy says, there's always next year. I'm not finished yet. I'm going to keep punching. Jason Francis has done a tremendous job. Those venues are brilliant, and the camaraderie amongst the older snooker pros. I had a fantastic experience at the UK in 2018, where I was at the golf day and I was playing on Dennis's team. We went in afterwards, we had a couple of pints, and then Dennis gave myself and Cliff a lift back to the hotel, and I was sitting in the back seat grinning like a Cheshire cat as these guys were just reminiscing, telling stories, and the three of us just spent the whole 15 minutes back to the hotel laughing. So I'm thinking, is this really happening? I thought I died and gone to heaven. These guys that I've watched on TV as a kid all those years, now I'm in their company, and I'm sort of part of the squad, if you like. And it's been a fantastic experience, and I'm really, really pleased that I got a second chance to experience, wonderful highs of playing snooker against legends in super venues.
Yeah, and I suppose before we go, Paddy, as well, we should mention the ICC, the International Challenge Cup. Could you talk us through what the ICC is to people that don't know, and what it means to the people involved in the ICC?
You keep bringing up all these bad memories. I had a terrible loss in the ICC in Killarney there in January, and I haven't got over it yet.
Really?
Yeah, some Scottish veteran.
He was probably very lucky, Paddy.
No, you played well. No, you're well worthy of the win. The ICC is a fantastic tournament. More about the social occasion than the snooker occasion for the Northern Ireland boys. They can't wait to get away and meet up with everybody and get a few beers. Brilliant idea, started by Robbie Murphy back in about 2012, I think it was, between the Republic of Ireland and France, and then we got invited in the next year, and then Scotland got invited in a few years later. And now we've made, like, I might have met you because we met for the first time in Cookstown at the ACC in 2016, and
that's right,
been good friends, and hopefully will remain so for a very long time. I've met a lot of great people through it, and we look forward to it every year. But we need to get our act together and stop these Republic of Ireland guys from winning it every year, because I
think they're on 4 in a row. Yeah,
4 in a row. And to quote the great Jimmy, as I said down there a couple of weeks ago, they're really beginning to annoy me.
Yeah. I'll just say, Paddy, I'll take you back to that frame that I won against you, and you talk about being a snooker fan, and what it means to you to mix with the likes of Jimmy White and people like that. You know, it's the same for me. Like being an amateur, never been involved in the game, and getting to mix with you, I felt complete pressure playing that frame against you. I wanted to win so bad because it would have been such a scalp for me, and I got the win. Although you had a bit of bad luck in that frame, but you know, I took my cue away, and Net was waiting for me, and I was telling her, "Yeah, I won," and she says, "Oh, well done." And I'm sort of trying to hold it together a wee bit. She says, "You're a bit emotional," and and I was welling up. And you talk about being a fan of snooker, and that's what beating you meant to me.
Well, it's not too often I say this, but I'm glad you won there. I wasn't glad at the time, but when I hear that, I'm glad you won.
Yeah.
Glad you won. I'd say if I ever manage to beat Jimmy, I'll probably collapse in a heat too. I'll probably be an emotional wreck.
Yeah.
No, that's nice to hear. I appreciate that. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no, legend. But of course, we had the ICC in January. It's usually in October, but obviously with the restrictions, we couldn't do that. So it was in January, and the ICC committee, they've done a fantastic job, you know, to even get it running with the restrictions we've had over the last couple of years. And we've got another one in October in your back garden, Cookstown. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think everybody really enjoyed it in Cookstown the last time. We'll be trying to do our best now to do a good job as hosts. We're going to get all the tables done, which is obviously nice for the players. You know, you want to play in good conditions and, you know, make everybody feel very welcome. And hopefully all the difficult times that we've all had over the past couple of years are slowly getting put behind us now, and we'll be back to sort of normal, or as normal as possible for everybody in October, and we can go and enjoy some good snooker and even more so enjoy a few beers.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. And obviously, just on the last note on the ICC, you know, I think the guys were trying to get it on. They were desperate to get it on this year because obviously the passing of Eddie Engel, who was a mainstay of the ICC, he was a gentleman, a great snooker player. I think the guys done him proud by getting the event on, and what a success it was.
Absolutely. I can't commend the ACC committee enough for managing to get it on these difficult times. There were a lot of us had a lot of doubts about whether they'd be able to pull it off, and you know, they worked so hard, meeting after meeting, and sticking to all the regulations and rules. It was a tremendous achievement to get it run off again in January, and as you say, an incredibly fitting tribute to Eddie Engel, who is one of the nicest men I ever met. Such an absolute diamond of a man, gentleman. And you know, he's really, really sadly missed by us. So I can't imagine how badly he's missed by his Republic of Ireland teammates. You know, especially the likes of Stephen Morrigan and Robbie Murphy, who were so close to Eddie. And yeah, it was lovely to see his wife Jacinta there, and it must have been very tough for her, but fair play to her. She made the effort to come down and see us all, and you know, I think she was pleased that it was a fitting tribute to Eddie.
Yeah, well said, Paddy. Well said.
So just before you move off the ICC, I guess for people who obviously haven't been to it, don't you know, haven't been involved at that level and been able to see it, would you just tell us a little bit about the format? It's a 4-team tournament, then. So you've got how does it work in terms of this, you know, the scoring, or is it all just kind of singles, one frame, or, you know, how does it work, and who are some of the players who are at it this year?
It's a pretty cutthroat format because every match just consists of one frame. As you say, 4 countries, and the countries are divided into men's team and seniors or masters team over 40s. Some of us qualify for both teams, unfortunately. But every frame counts. So you play your opposite team, like the men play against the men, and you play all your opposite numbers, one frame each, and every single frame counts towards the final total of the tournament.
Right.
Whichever country has the most frames won at the end of the two and a half days is the winner. So there are no second chances. If you don't take your chance in that one frame, there's no comeback from that. That goes down as a loss, and you move on to try and pull that back in your next frame. It's a wonderfully exciting format. If it gets close at the end, there's a lot of pressure, but the Republic unfortunately have been dominating a little bit this last few years. So hopefully, with home advantage for us in Cookstown in October, we'll be trying to make that count and give them a good run for their money when everybody comes to Cookstown later in the year.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that, Paddy. It's always, whoever's organising, it's always fantastically organised and well run, and we'll look forward to seeing in Cookstown.
Absolutely. Hopefully see you before it.
Hopefully. You never know.
And some of the players in it, I mean, I think Joe Swale has been playing in it as well. We were talking about players who, we'll know from the tours and from the past, in terms of pros who have maybe played in these tournaments.
Yeah, Joe Swale was supposed to play for Northern Ireland in January, but unfortunately he had a personal matter that at the very last minute he had to pull out. Right. So obviously we were disappointed, because Joe will be a great asset to the team and an even greater asset in the bar. He's good at staying late in the bar. Michael Judge has played a lot for the Republic of Ireland over the last few years, and he's been, Mr. Reliable, wins most of his games. I think when we played in Scotland, Lee, I think Michael might have gone unbeaten or went unbeaten to the last match.
I didn't know that.
And then he got a wild card for the PMK Pro-Am on the basis of his results. So, he's a quality player.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Michael maybe not be playing now because he's back on the Pro Tour, which is a fantastic achievement after 11 years off. But hopefully we'll get Joe lined up for Cookstown in October.
And it sounds fantastic. It sounds a real, well, as you say, the social side as much as the snooker. From the sound of it, it's that thing of being together and the camaraderie and the fact you make friends through it, which is fantastic. And just, I suppose the bit would be interesting is, where are you in terms of, you're obviously doing the seniors and doing very well, and you've had Q School now a few years as well, so you're still going into that system of the qualification for potentially getting on the tour. Is that something you're keeping doing? Is that your plan?
Honestly, no, I don't want to get back on tour. I've gone to Q School the last couple of years. Well, I was desperate for a few competitive games of snooker in lockdown, and
right.
in 2020 there was so little competitive snooker, and because I had finished #1 in the Northern Ireland amateur rankings when everything was shut down, I got the nomination for a free Q School spot that goes to the home nations. So obviously entry for Q School is £1,000. So if you're getting that free spot, that certainly puts a big hole in the expenses, and then you just basically have to look after your flights and hotel and keep. So I did really well in that Q School at the start. I won 7 of my first 8 matches, and then finished off with a couple of losses. Dave Finbo and I can't remember. John Astley, good, very, very good players. But I was happy that I gave an account of myself and I won a few games. And then same situation last year. I got a wee bit of a taste for it, and I had the #1 ranking, so I got the free spot again. And I went to Sheffield. Didn't do quite as well. Standard of opponents that I was playing. Maybe was a little bit higher, and didn't really do it well. I should have beaten Lai Pei Fan, who finished #2 in the rankings. I was 3-1 up and absolutely cruising, and didn't get over the line. But my goal to go to Q School is to enjoy competitive snooker in really, really good conditions. And if a minor miracle happened and I finished up very near the top of the rankings, I would get into some events as a top-up. I had a wee experience a couple of times of playing in the Northern Ireland Open at the Waterfront as the #1 amateur at the time. And that was a fantastic experience. Loves to be involved, but would not like to go back to it being my profession where I'm trying to earn a living. Not at 52, not with so many fantastic young players. You've only got to look at the likes of Zintong winning the UK and then following up with the German, and the snooker that lad's playing at 24 is just like, it's fantastic. And there are an awful lot more good young players, a lot of good young Chinese. And no, I don't want to put myself back to where I was, put myself under pressure playing snooker. I want to try and enjoy it as much as possible, and just play. I play Q School for fun, which is a little bit of a cheat, really, because a lot of the poor lads are, it's blood, sweat, and tears, and huge disappointment if they don't get through. So, I've definitely got an advantage over them in that I'm not under pressure to get my tour card. That's for sure.
I remember a while ago, Peter Lyons was interviewed. I think it was the Talking Snooker guys, Phil and Nick. And I'm sure he said something around, there was criticism about players of his age still going on Q Tour and Q School and all of that. And he was kind of saying, well, why shouldn't I? This is what I love doing. This is my living. This is something I want to do. What other sport would I be told I'm not allowed to play because of my age? Well, maybe there are some, but snooker, it was quite a convincing defense. And I don't hear criticism about that. I think you get more criticism about the wild cards, don't you, when certain pros keep being given a tour card when they haven't been competing at a good level. But this is obviously a very different thing.
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree with Peter's sentiments, especially as I'm of a similar age. And one thing about Peter's for certain, nobody loves the game more than him. And as he says, why shouldn't he be playing, against good players in good conditions, rather than, having to give that up and go and play all your snooker, in clubs where conditions at times can be difficult and can be a little bit of a leveler. The good thing about playing in Q School and playing on tour is you're almost always guaranteed to get absolutely superb conditions, which, all players love to play in good conditions, because it's very, very rewarding when you can get the ball to do what you want it to do when you're doing it, when you're hitting it well, as opposed to sometimes in the clubs you'd be hitting a shot and thinking, how did that end up there? And on your other point with the wild cards, I've been a Jimmy White fan since I was 12, 82 World Championship. I think it's the only time I ever wanted him to lose was in the semis of the 82 World Championship against Alex. After that, I just wanted him to win. So for what he's done for the game and his service to the game and the amount of bums that he's put on seats over the years, they can keep giving him wild cards till he's 70, as far as I'm concerned.
Was he the inspiration to take up the sport, or were you already into it, but he came along and he was the one that captured your interest the most?
I would have to say at the very start it was Alex. Jimmy really didn't come onto my radar that much until the 82 World Championship, where he got to the semis and he's only about 20. I just loved his style of play, the quick fire cue action and, racing around the table, making it look ridiculously easy. But when I was just starting to get into snooker, the first snooker match I can really remember getting into was the 80 World Final where Alex lost to Cliff Thorburn, the famous one where the embassy siege was interrupted the snooker coverage and everybody started phoning in saying, "Can you get the snooker back on, please?" That's the first match I remember having an interest in the result, and I think it was because it was a Northern Ireland man, and then obviously really started getting into it then about 81, and Alex winning the 82 was a dream for Northern Ireland snooker fans. Yeah. I started getting into snooker because my uncle, who sadly passed away last year, was the principal in the intermediate school then. And he was a good local player and such a fan that he managed to get his hands on a second-hand table and refurbished it and put it in the staff room. So every Sunday morning, myself and my cousin would get the key to the staff room and go down and have a few frames. And I was bitten by the bug straight away. Just took that, took me, I don't know how long, took me a couple of years to make a 30 break, but I've always been a bit of a slow learner.
It's probably a good timely, I think, isn't it? To because we want to let Paddy get back to the Players' Championship. You can watch some snooker tonight, but clearing the colours, and why, maybe you find out a little bit more, a bit of quick fire as best we can, then, Paddy. And the first one for the yellow, then we're going to clear the colours tonight, and it's just who's the funniest player that you've come across? Who would you say is the one who stands out to you, the funniest guy you've played with, or female player, who knows?
That definitely has to be Joe Delaney. Joe Delaney's a Dublin lad. He was a pro for quite a few years, and simply the funniest man I know. His Alex Higgins impression is second to none, and he qualified for the Crucible in, I think it was about 2007. He lost quite heavily to Matthew Stevens, but he definitely enjoyed himself when he was there because there was a free bar.
Oh, perfect.
What's not to love?
Sounds good.
So that's the yellow dispatch, Paddy. We're on to the green. What's your favourite venue away from the Crucible?
That would have to be Goffs. I missed out on playing in Goffs because I never qualified for the Irish Masters till it moved to the City West. But I've been very fortunate to play in it twice in the Seniors Irish Masters. And it's an absolute dream for somebody from the island of Ireland to play there. I went there to support Joe when he was playing in the Irish Masters in the mid-90s. He got to a couple of semi-finals, and I've never experienced an atmosphere like it, with the Irish crowd cheering on one of their own. It was hers standing up on the back of the neck job.
And having only seen that on the television, Paddy, it seems to be a really intimidating venue. Everybody seems to be on top of you. Is that right?
Yes, it's a horse sales ring, so the seating is very steep. It's like an oval shape, and it seems to go up really high into the heavens when you're down there in the middle of the arena. It's certainly a steep walk down the steps when you're going down to play. So I wouldn't say intimidating. I'd say incredibly special and very very enjoyable to play in.
Brilliant.
All right, that's the green. So we're making our way through. So the brown. Just wondered who you think the next first-time world champion is going to be. Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, on current form, it's hard to look past Sintong, isn't it? I mean, he's been absolutely exceptional for the last couple of months. It's amazing to think that we're talking about him now being the first Chinese world champion as opposed to Ding.
Yeah.
And you'd have to say even Bing Tao would be ahead of Ding in the pecking order for potential first-time world champion. Tough call, but I would say Sintong just over Bing Tao. Yeah.
And it's interestingly, isn't it? Because during the course of doing this and asking that question, you can see how players are coming into form, because earlier in the season, and certainly before Christmas, Kyron Wilson was probably getting the most votes, wasn't he? Whereas now, certainly, we would expect Sintong's name to come up quite regular, I think, for that question.
Yeah, Karen's a great shout, to be fair, because he has proven that he can stay the course at the Crucible for semis and final. Absolutely superb player, but typical snooker player. You're influenced by what's happened recently. I would say Sintong's an absolutely fabulous player to watch. Love watching him play. And Tapchaya, what a talent he is. It's just a pity he's not getting the results to go with his classy action that he has.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to hear. I think I only heard it today that Tapchaya is really struggling in the rankings. I think he's outside the top 64 at the moment, which is a great surprise.
That's an awful shock, and it would be such a pity to see him falling off the tour, because he's a great asset to snooker. The way he played when he won the shootout was just beyond belief. He was just playing his normal game. Everybody was running about the table like a lunatic, and he was just sauntering about making hundreds. It was fabulous to watch. He's a lovely player to watch. He's a really nice guy too. So I hope he turns that around now before the end of the season.
Absolutely. Okay, we're on to the blue now, Paddy. Tricky blue this. If there was a film made about your life, which actor would play you?
That's easy. Tom Cruise.
Oh, well. It was an easy blue.
No, I'm joking.
They don't have to look like you, Paddy.
No, I'd say probably Martin Clunes. He has the ears for it.
Well, that was easier than I thought.
I think that's my favourite question, Lee. I love that question. It's getting better every week. Yeah, that's great. I think Billy Snadden had Brad Pitt, and then he said no. Was it Phil Mitchell he went for in the end? Something like that. The guy who plays Phil Mitchell.
Everybody seems to be setting the bar high, and then a touch of reality kicks in.
Oh dear. Okay, well, we're nearly there. So we're on the pink, and similar to the funniest player, but not the funniest this time. But what about the nicest player? What about the most genuine, nice, kind of, just one of those people you just think salt of the earth?
That's an easy one too. I know I'm biased, but I'm going for another Irishman, and that's Rodney Goggins. Rodney is not only is he an even bigger snooker geek than me. He knows more results and more stats than I do. He's absolutely the nicest guy. Just the amount of nice things he's done for me. I have pictures in my snooker room that he has sent me, signed by Jimmy White and Terry Griffiths, because he knows, I'm a fan of Jimmy and how close I am to Terry after everything he did for me. He's just, I just can't speak highly enough of him, and he's going through a tough time at the minute because he just lost his mum. So I hope I'm going to be able to be there for him now too, because he's a great friend, and he is definitely the nicest guy I've met through snooker.
Yeah, well,
you're close secondly.
Thanks very much. Paddy, I can't get you any signed stuff. I'm sorry.
But you are second. But you are
I'll
second.
take that.
That's good, though. That's good, isn't it? That's good.
Fantastic. Okay, this to clear the table, Paddy. Black ball question. What would you call your autobiography if you wrote one?
The Tropical Storm.
These are easy for Paddy.
Yeah, that's an ironic nickname because I'm so slow. Very, very, very good friend of mine who was tragically killed 20 years ago this year. He had a lot of nicknames for me. One of them was Methodical, and then that got shortened to Method. And then when I was playing at the Crucible, he was sitting watching with another good friend of mine, Dermot Loughlin, who you know well, Lee.
Yeah, lovely.
And back in the day, there was no such thing as red buttons, so these guys were watching the teletext scores flashing up in vision, and it was going, when I was playing Alan, it was going 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, and the boys were having a wee beer, and Barry shouts out, "Come on, the Tropical Storm." So that was a little joke about the fact that you had the hurricane and the whirlwind, and then you had me, who was the exact opposite. Yeah, but no, I'll tell you, Barry had a great sense of humor. I miss him dearly, and my son was just born, and he wasn't sleeping. He was about 6 months old, my son, and I wasn't getting a wink of sleep. And I was traveling every day to practice with Barry. I was driving home one day, and I said, "Geez, Barry, I'm absolutely wrecked. I'm not getting any sleep at night. That lad won't sleep at all." And Barry said, "Just take him to watch you playing snooker. He'll be asleep in no time."
Of course, we're talking about Barry McNamee.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, a great player in his own right.
Barry McNamee, fantastic player. Yeah. Would have had a chance to, go on and do something as a pro. Unfortunately, if you remember what I was telling you about the system when they took everybody to Plymouth, he had only been a pro for 1 year, and he got up from 700 up to about 220, and he only got into one tournament in Plymouth. Whereas if he'd had 2 years, he would have been easily up at number 150, 140, and he would have got
Yeah.
into all four. And that didn't work out for him. And then he moved away to Jersey for a while, and he never went back pro. He did come back playing amateur snooker, and he did go on to play in European amateurs and world amateurs in China. But he never went back to the pro. But his timing was just unfortunate. If he'd had 2 years at it instead of one, I think he could have given it a bit of a rattle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the colours cleared then. I think, Lee, that was I mean, that was anything but a tropical storm. That was more of a whirlwind. I think you rattled through them very nicely.
That's the quickest I've ever cleared the colours in my life.
So, I mean, I guess all it remains to say, Paddy, certainly from my point of view, I'll just say my bit, but just a real pleasure getting some time with you and finding out more about you and, you know, your insights into the sport, and really nice hearing just the detail that you recall when you were talking about the Crucible and all that period of your career and with the Terry Griffiths help. But more than anything, just coming across as a really nice guy, really lovely fella, and
Cheers.
Makes it easy for us to do this kind of thing. So I just want to wish you well and say thanks very much.
No, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, Michael. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, Paddy, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Paddy. You're a fantastic snooker player, but an even better guy, you know. So thanks for being so generous with your time. I know you're a busy guy, and I look forward to seeing you wherever it is in the world and sharing a pint with you.
Hopefully it'll be soon, and the feelings mutually. I mean that, Pop.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Take care of yourself.
Cheers, guys.